Well, hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the New Construction Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Anya Chrysanthon, and I'm really excited to introduce my guest for today, Roland Nairnsey. Roland has sold over $750 million worth of real estate himself. He is a new home sales coach, and I'm really excited to have him on the program today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here, Anya. Thank you for inviting me, and great job to you. I'm so impressed with your podcast, and I subscribe to it, and so impressed with the material, and you're just a shining star in our industry. We're lucky to have you supporting everybody out there, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate all the support myself. So, Roland, if you don't mind kicking things off by telling us a little bit about who you are, how you got started in new home sales, and a little bit more about your company and what you do.
Sure. How much time do we have? No, I'm just kidding. Everyone knows I can talk a lot, so I'm going to try to condense it and stay focused for you. So I'm excited to share it all. Yeah, I started selling homes a long time ago. I was in general real estate for about 5 years. I did well, but I just got a little bit burnt out with general real estate, and I discovered new home sales. I know it's a long time ago. It was in the 80s, believe it or not. And I got my first new home sales position in 1987 as a selling sales manager for a builder. And I just fell in love with new home sales from that point on. So it's all I've ever known, really, in my adult life. And I've worked in many communities. As you sort of mentioned, I've got a lot of sales under my belt. And I just always, as a salesperson, I would always seek training. I just realized that there was sort of a better way to do things, and I wanted to get better and better. And ironically, I sold a lot of homes in Palm Beach County in Florida, and there were always 4 or 5 people that were always on the leaderboard in the Sales and Marketing Council for awards every year. I was one of those 4 or 5. Whenever I went to training, it was the people that were ahead of me that were also going for training. So I was just fascinated by that training isn't remedial or any of those things. It's just a way of getting better and honing our skills. So I'm a lifelong learner. I always believe in that we can always get better, including me as a trainer and a coach. I want to improve. And so as a new home salesperson manager, what I found is the thing I loved the most was training. So I had the good fortune to work for a well-known trainer for 10 years, from 2002 to 2012. And now I'm doing my own thing, my own company. And I just changed the name literally this morning from New Home Sales Coach to New Home Sales Plus, which I think covers a lot more. We do so many things other than just coaching, so writing and consulting and just a whole bunch of stuff. So that's it. So that didn't even take so long, but there we go. There's the condensed version of how I got here. So I love coaching the most. It's my favorite thing. And the biggest thrill I get, just like you, I think, Anya, is watching students that I've worked with really go on to succeed and thrive. And I've got some lifelong friends now that this is their career, is selling, and the stuff that we've covered, they're using to improve their lives and the lives of people around them. So what better gift can you ask for than that?
I couldn't agree more with you. And I think a lot of people have a misconception that as a salesperson, you're either born as a salesperson or not. Right. And I think that's something that actually I used to think. Mm-hmm. And I definitely know now that great salespeople are not born that way. Mm-hmm. And you can become an awesome salesperson. And I'm 100% on board with you that training and learning is the way to do it. So keep getting yourself better and better.
I think you're still there.
Even by doing small things like listening to a podcast like this.
We had internet issues earlier today.
Every single day you're getting better and better. So I absolutely agree with you. So, all right. So I know one of the things that you do, you do so many different things, not just one thing, but besides coaching, I know that recently when we had a conversation, you mentioned that when you're watching all of the secret shoppers on video, which is always interesting to see as a sales coach, right? What people are doing and what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong.
Right.
And you noticed one of the things was body language. So
yes,
you guys, that's one topic that we haven't covered in our podcast yet. It's definitely a big topic that you need to pay attention to, because your body language conveys so much more than actual verbal communication, right? Roland, I think I've sat in on one of your presentations.
Have you?
And
Okay.
you do have a stat. I don't know if you have it available, but what was the stat about how much you convey with
Yep.
your words versus
Good for
body
you. Yeah.
language?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love words. Words are wonderful things, and a different day we get into all of the right words. But that's how the research, both the research that's available says that that's only 7% of what people perceive about us. The other
7%?
93%, yeah, the other 93% is voice, tone, and body language, with body language being a big chunk of that. That was Dr. Morabian in the 50s, and then the University of Pennsylvania both did studies on, yeah. So you could be saying all the right words, but if your body language is in conflict, then you could be losing sales. And so in a bit, when we get going with the official program part of it, I'll definitely want to go through the step-by-step part of how body language is really important. And as you said, Anya, it occurred to me after watching video shops that a lot of what needs to be fixed isn't really what we say, but it's what we do and the actions that we take. And so that, I thought that would be an interesting sort of thing to talk about today, if that sounds good.
Yes, I love that. And I think a lot of it comes from our own psyche, right? Because if you believe in what you're selling or what you're saying, the way you're going to convey it is going to be very different than if
Sure.
maybe you're not quite sure, or you're trying to trick somebody. So even though you're saying one thing, your body language may be betraying you and
Right,
giving
absolutely,
completely
yeah.
different messages.
Well, no, I agree. I think that if we have to be passionate about what we do and everything, and so if you are fully aligned with your builder and you fully believe that they are the best builder for your client, and then you have the right process where you're asking open-ended discovery questions, and you genuinely are finding out about your client's needs, and you're very convinced that what you have matches that, then of course we have to be passionate in leading them through that and leading clients through that process. So it's pretty obvious. People are smart, thank goodness, and it's transparent when we're excited and being authentic, and it's transparent when we're not. So body language is a big part of that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Shall I get started and walk you through some of the ideas, or
Yes, I
is
would
that
love that.
time for that?
So you guys, we wanted to make this almost like a mini training so that you can really take this away and implement it and start using these steps. And what I will do is I will link the program in the show notes. So if you guys go to AnyaKhristianton.com/066, you'll be able to get full notes from Roland and follow along with that.
Perfect. All right, good. And I'm going to clean up my desk. We were talking earlier when we chatted about the program. I said, Anya, it's hard for me because I love writing material. I'm a big content guy.
I can
And this
see that.
This is an example of some of the workbooks, from on-site visits to video conferences that I do. So I'm going to get rid of it, make some space on my desk. But I wanted to show you that. I thought it was sort
And
of
for
funny.
those of you guys who are listening, literally Roland has a pile of
Yeah.
books on his desk that
So
he's using. So
it's nice and clean. So what we thought, let's just talk briefly about the importance of body language. So most of you probably, I'm hoping that most of you follow a process, a sales process. You know, it's not always fashionable to talk about the sales process in terms of a path. But I was quite successful for many years, and then a trainer came along and showed me what was then called the critical sales path, and I didn't know about it, and it helped me get more sales. But it also helped me if I was ever in a bit of a rut and I wasn't selling. If I went 2 or 3 weeks without a sale, I could look at this path and go, oh, you know what? I'm not doing this. I'm not taking people to home sites, or I'm not asking all the discovery questions, or whatever. So I've found that a path, of course, makes sense. Whatever you want to call it, whether it's fashionable or not, we all follow a path in anything that we do. If you're successful, if you have an email that is good, you send it to somebody and you like it, you don't discard it, you save it, and you cut and paste it and probably use it again, maybe with a different beginning and ending, but it's something that's successful, so you definitely want to emulate that. So the idea of a path, of course, is an important idea. So I want to break down a little bit what body language at which point, and then check back in with you in each one, Anya. on that. So step one, and as Anya said, for those that when I learn, I do like to listen, but I also like taking notes. So I've put together a little pamphlet for you for those that want to download it. Go to Anna's website and she'll link you to that, and you have a little sort of thing that you can fill in some blanks. But anyway, the first part is greeting. When somebody comes in, our body language should be what? What kind of body language should it be? Should it be sitting down and say, come on in, welcome to our model? Or should it be standing up, greeting them, that kind of stuff, right? So that's an important part. We want to. I firmly believe you want to greet them wherever they come in. So you take control in a very friendly way. We're smiling. We're probably shaking hands if that's culturally correct with them. Offering refreshment. Those who can't see Anya right now, she's nodding in such a lovely way, and that's exactly the right body language. She has great body language. So smiling, friendly, a wonderful greeting. If you're sitting at your desk, what is your body language saying? And not greeting them. I mean, saying what? I'm not, just come in, help yourself. They don't need you. And obviously first impressions are so important. I just heard this expression the other day that you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So if you have a bad beginning, it's hard for people to let go of that. They're like, well.
I agree with you. Now, Ron, when you watch the mystery shops,
yes,
would you say how many % of salespeople never actually get up from their desk?
No, actually, I've got to say, because I tend to, and this isn't sound, I'm not trying to say sound braggadocious. Most of the shops I watch are with salespeople that I've worked with anyway. And so I would say most people do get up and greet. I don't see that a lot. I know when I go out looking to just go out and look in retail, I've been to plenty of builders and throughout Florida where I live that don't get up. I've gone into models and seen that. On the video shops, I'd say that probably 90 to 95% of the beginnings are pretty good. We advocate that you mention the name of your builder, like welcome to so-and-so homes at the community, my name is and you are. So that might be something to forget. But the beginning body language is usually pretty good, in most cases. So then the part that I notice can change quickly is when we go through our discovery questions. So we believe in open-ended questions, right? Those how, what, when, where, who kind of questions. So what, how'd you hear about us? When are you thinking of moving? Our homes of value from here to here. What did you have in mind? All those kinds of important conversations. That now, if you sit them down, that's where the body language I think can go awry. So if you sit them down for the discovery, and that leads into the presentation of the builder. What do we think could be wrong with sitting them down too early? Do you have a thought about that?
Well, I think when your customers come in, they want to see your model, right?
Yes.
They don't want to be bombarded with a million questions. So I think the point is to tie model presentation into a natural extension of discovery process. So you're asking them questions throughout, but you're not making it like an interrogation sitting across the desk from them.
Exactly right. Perfectly put. I enjoy working with you, Anya. We're perfectly aligned here. So, I come from the school where most of the builders I work with, we sort of set up a sales environment where ideally it could be a garage where you come in. And so you're going to stand up and greet them and welcome them, ask them discovery questions. And then we'd have some sales collateral or props on the wall. So that might be a map of the area so we can go macro to micro. It's not just about the home. So you go to that prop and you would talk about what you're experiencing. A builder story panel, a map of the community that you're in, because so many of us are selling lifestyle, unless we're an on your lot builder, and I do work with plenty of on your lot builders, but even those builders, we're still digging in with the builder and what's going on. So you're right. If you make the mistake, in my opinion, it's a mistake. The clients want to see something. They're excited. They want to see our models. When you sit them down, it takes the wind out of their sails. It begins to feel like an interrogation. And I know the people that do sit clients down, they usually are the sweetest salespeople. They think they're doing it to be really nice. They're like, let's take our time, and I want to ask everything I need to know. But the buyers aren't perceiving it that way. If you move them around, it keeps them on the feet. It keeps them excited. They feel connected to you. They know that they're going to see the model. The thing that I find really interesting is that we want to sit down at the end. We want to, after we go out and look at stuff, I want to make sure, and a phrase that I say a lot is never negotiate on your feet, always close at your seat. So once we're finished with all of this, we've gone to the model, we've gone to a home site or a home, I want to sit down for a recap. Well, if I sit down up front, then they're not going to want to sit down at the end. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because they're tired of sitting down at that point.
Thank you.
Right?
Bingo. High five. Exactly. That's what I find. It's so interesting from a physiological point of view, is that if they've sat down up front for 10, 15 minutes, say, well, I've already had my sit down with you, Anya, so why do I need to do that at the end? So you're not going to be able to sit them down on that first visit, recap. And everything that we work on, we're not all hopped up on having to sell a home on the first visit, for sure. That's not going to happen every time, but let's put ourselves in a situation where it could happen. Well, what if you and I are both very fast paced? We get distracted by shiny objects very quickly, and we have that in common with high eyes or whatever. So I buy things on first visits all the time, or at the very least move the sale forward. As Quint, you had Quint on this show, and I love Quint. He talks about advancing the sale. I totally agree. At least advance it to the point where you're sitting down, recapping, and asking for the sale and giving them an opportunity. So if you sit down up front, that's the first thing from a body language point of view. Let's keep them on their feet. Motion creates emotion. So motion creates emotion. You're right. We're going to walk through our props, talk about them, engage with them, connect with them, that kind of stuff. Time frame, and this varies depending on how we do it and people's experience level, but maybe 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the quality of the props you have and the buyer's personality style. So if they're a high D or high I and they're fast paced, it will go faster. If they're more slow paced, it may be 10 to 15 minutes. Again, I found what's interesting is that some people spend too long. So if you're going to spend 20, 25 minutes, they get used to that. Then it's hard to shift them and move them into the model. So I think there really is an art-science combination where we want to keep them moving in a friendly way, connect with them, build rapport, and 10 to 15 minutes to build that really solid foundation in what I call Act 1. In the greeting and discovery and presentation process. And then the other element, which is what you alluded to before, Charles Clark III, for example, talks about bulls, owls, lambs, and tigers. He's known for that, and we have discs and personality. So the idea is once you identify what personality style they are, then you want to adapt to become just like them. So that's the highest level of all of this, right? So you and I are fast-paced people. We like to go quickly. Great with other people like us, but if they're slow-paced and relaxed, we have to learn to just tone it way down, bite our tongue so we don't interrupt people, because you can't do that too often, and then mirror match everything, their style and their pacing. If they're slow paced, we go slow paced. Recently I've noticed that something that I do, which makes me laugh, is some people are angry at things. They go, everything's a problem. And I'm not a naturally angry person. I'm just not. But I'll do fake anger. Like, yeah, traffic's terrible. And I'll just agree with them. And then they're so happy to meet somebody that can moan about the same things. And then they'll get back on track. So I'll sort of mirror and match like their anger about something trivial. I wouldn't go too deep into it, but because it could take us off track. But I just want to pace them and match them so that there's a connection there. So that's body language. So far, so good.
So far, so good. So you guys greet them, keep them on their feet, and now mirror their body language.
Perfect. The next part of it then, so I like to think of the sales process in 3 acts. So Act 1 is what we just talked about. Act 2 is going to be demonstrating the model, and then going to the one of a kind, either an available home site, looking at the floor plan if you're an on your lot builder, that kind of stuff. So what we found is the transition from the end of Act 1 to the beginning of Act 2 is so important, meaning that I would imagine we all agree that you'd like to go with them in the model, correct?
Yes.
Because if not, they're just going to do what? They could eliminate it, but you're certainly not going to connect with them. And so that body language, let's go, and you're waving them forward. I always equate it to if you go to a restaurant and the waiter sort of meets you at the front, or maitre d', and then they just take off, and you're like, well, am I supposed to follow them? You're not really sure what you're supposed to do because they got bad body language. And if you follow them, and like, well, why are you following me?
In the kitchen, right?
Right, you're in the kitchen already. Like, no, somebody else. But they just didn't make it clear with their body language. These transitions for me are critical, where it's let's go, and you're excited, and you're going to take them into the model. Body language in the model, again, there's different ways of doing it. And I've seen people that love to do it their way, which is just to take off and walk around and say, we do this and we do that. I don't think there's any connection that way. So what we advocate is that you stay close to them. Probably arm's length is ideal. So that could be 3 to 5 feet. Not close talking, that's too close. We don't want to be right up above. And the whole idea is just to experience what they're experiencing, excuse me. So being next to them is great, leading them is wonderful, but never more than about 4 or 5 feet away, because you definitely want to be connecting with them and making sure that you're experiencing what they. So that's really a body. Go ahead.
And one thing I notice about salespeople is that they tend to kind of, okay, they know they're on this path and they want to follow the path. But,
Yes.
you know, if your prospect stops and lingers in the kitchen,
Yes.
stop and linger in the
Oh, I love
kitchen.
you. It's so true. Look, I mean, in this workbook, I've got probably, I don't know, 40, 50 pages of model demo. It's such an important thing. And most of it is that, Anya, which is slow down, relax. My body language in the kitchen is to lean against cabinets and stuff and relax with them. And I also will figure out which parts of the room are the best angle. So, well, I might be leaning back here and say, have a look at the view and notice how open it is towards the great room. Imagine watching TV or whatever. But our job is to mentally move them in to the home, correct, and transfer ownership. So you can't do that if you're walking. Let me tell you about this. As we'll say, telling is not selling. We're looking for planned, not canned. But you got to slow them down. So slow them down, relax, open the doors and drawers. Research said that from NHB says that 32% of the time in a model is spent in the kitchen, in model demo. Between 28 to 32, I believe is what it was. So it's an important part of the home for clients. So let's slow down and relax. Corners and angles of the room, and again, let's get them to imagine. But we have to lead them. We aren't a guide in a museum talking about paintings. It's their home. So the more we can slow them down and relax, the more impactful it's going to be. All right. So that's a little bit of that, mirroring and matching again. The biggest thing, and this is, there are things that I say as a trainer that are sort of contentious. And I don't do it on purpose, but I'm not going to stop saying them just for that reason. I do believe them. And one of the things I haven't said is that everything I teach is what I've done myself. So, I've been to plenty of classes and I love the training, but I would always come back to my model, my area, sales area, and try it. If it worked, great. If it didn't, I'm not going to teach it. So this next thing is the contentious thing, that the transition from the end of model demo. So when you're finished showing the model, I would advocate that you confirm that they like it and you ask for the sales. So you could say, is this the type of home you'd like to own? For some reason, it comes out like Mrs. Doubtfire for me. Oh, is this the type of home you'd like to own? I don't know why, but I sound Scottish when I say that. Anyway, what do you think? How do you like it? That kind of stuff. So presuming they say yes, then it's great. Let's go look at whatever's coming next, right? Mm-hmm. It should be reflexive. Let's go look at the available home sites. Let's go look at an available home, whatever it's going to be. The contentious part is this: walk, drive, golf cart, whatever, but always go together. This is the body language thing that would, I feel sad. So when I watch a video shop and the salesperson says, great, let's go look at home sites. And then the client follows them out and they get in separate cars. I can predict exactly what's going to happen about 15 minutes from now. So at the end of the demonstration of either the home site or the home, what do you think is going to happen? Because they follow. Yeah, go ahead.
They're going to get in their car and they're going to drive home.
You know it. They're going to, thanks a lot, Anya. I'll call you if I like it or whatever. It's just predicted. It's expected that your movie, your process is ending exactly there. Why does it have to end there when you want to come back, recap, and close? So what we would suggest is that you leave your paperwork, your brochures rather, back at your desk, so you don't have them with you. So it's going to cause you to have to go back. But it's, let's go look at the home site. If you're in a neighborhood where you can walk, that's ideal, right? Because you get to meet other people and you bump into, there's some good things that can happen from that. If you have to drive, and this is a part, I want to put a definite giant caveat on this. If there's any sense of being unsafe, then we would not do it. So most of my clients tell me that their buyers are typically couples or families. There are some single buyers out there. So if you feel uncomfortable, if you're a female salesperson and you have a single male buyer, then please don't do this. We don't want you to take any risks, and that's a whole nother conversation where you want to be definitely very safe. But if you have a family, if you have a couple, I learned, and I was a young man doing this much, I started very early. I had a really bad car. It was beaten up. It was rusted out. So I was embarrassed about it. And I used to hide it around the corner. I had a suit and tie and a rusty old car. And so I just got in people's car. And it just was natural. I would just hop in the back and go, oh, okay. And I would get it in new home sales, not in general. And I became part of their family. Little kid with a car said, hey, Jimmy, what was that, peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Can I have some? And I became like one of the kids in the family. And I just have done it ever since. And so have the salespeople that I train. But I really think that one transition makes or breaks your success. The exponential difference between mediocre success and great success, I think, is that transition where if you go with them, what's going to happen? We're
We
gonna.
have to drive you back.
Well, that's the main thing. That's what you and I like the most, I think. But yeah, but go ahead.
Plus, you're also chit chatting while you're in the car, so
Yeah.
you're building rapport. So how would you do this? Because obviously you don't
Yes.
want to be like weird getting in their car.
I know, and I'm sort of a weird guy, so I can get away with things probably, and maybe it's the accent, and it's easier as perhaps, but absolutely, I would set the expectation. The more you set expectations early about what's going to happen next. So even in your act one, you can say, after we look at the model, I can't wait to show you home sites. We'll go together, or we'll go look at them. And if they don't challenge that, you're sort of planting the seed about what's coming. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is when you go out there and you look at the car, say, well, would you rather come with me or should I come with you? Not giving them a choice. And most times when I've done that, they'll say, come with me. With them, most people like to drive, is what I've found. As recently as about 3.5 years ago, I was managing sales in Southwest Florida for a luxury home builder, and I met with a couple in the sales office. I was the only one there that day. It was a day off for the salespeople, and I had a client that I met with, and he was looking at building a home between $3 to $4 million. And after the initial act one, I said, let's go look at these home sites, and I could tell he wanted to be in control. I said, would you rather I go with you or go in my car? And I hopped in the back of his car. He loved it. And one of the things that was cool is I saw all the brochures of the other builders where he'd be. So I knew he was really serious. And it was very interesting. And I could also control, I say, look over here. Not that anything really bad was going on in the other direction, but I was able to sort of point things out, sort of like being at Disney World where those hippopotamuses come up from the water and stuff, and look at them, whatever it was. Anyway, so we went out there, we looked at one home site, he sort of liked it, but he wasn't in love with it. Let's look at the other one we had to look at, and it was a lakefront home site for $800,000. We walked on the home site, and I said, let's go ahead. He said, sure. We went back, and he agreed to send a deposit. So within 2 days, I had a deposit on a home site for $800,000, and then he did build a home for over $4 million in the end. So whether it's $150,000 or $5 million, the processes I've found are exactly the same. So if you can find a way to connect with them and go together, it is different for a lot of people, especially in different regions of the country, I've found. But if you can work it out and you're going to connect, the main thing, as you said, is you're going to come back for your recap, and that's going to cause an exponential increase in sales that you'll love. So, all right, so far so good?
So far so good. So
body language on the home site or in the home, same thing, mirroring, matching, taking control. If you're showing a home site, as long as the weather is okay and it's not muddy or something, where do you want to do? You want to stay in the car, or should we get out and demonstrate?
Definitely get out and demonstrate.
That's it. You want to get out, demonstrate, bring your floor plan of the one you think they like the most with you. Try to get them to imagine what that home's going to be like on their home site and start to fall in love. And this is interesting, the back part of the workbook that I sent you, which we're not going to cover today, talks about getting them to fall in love with things that they'll start to fight for. So with some people, maybe they said the time frame was longer. It's a year or two, and you want it sooner. But if you could say, look, your buying power will never be stronger than it is right now. Would you consider moving sooner? Well, okay, we'll consider it. We really wanted 2 years. So then great. And then you go through your process. Then you go to the home site. And what happens, because you went to the home site, they start to fall in love with that one of a kind. And now that changes in their mind. So they'll start to fight for it because they actually love it.
Yes.
That makes sense?
I think that is number one thing that a lot of salespeople are not doing, is actually getting out to the home site.
Yes.
And that's a big thing. Big mistake, because I think one of the easiest things to do when it comes to building urgency, which I think is crucial in closing sales, is building urgency through the particular home site, yes. Right? I think if you can tie that prospect to a particular home site that they absolutely love,
yes,
it's so easy to build urgency around that versus, yes. Oh, you love this model. Okay, well, we have 30 different home sites available.
Exactly.
But they're not tied to one.
Well, even that statement of 30, that's too much supply of something. So they're going to think that they're fine and come back a year or two from now, as opposed to, and this, I learned this from a trainer. I was in an active adult community for 10 years down in Palm Beach County, Florida. We had over 2,000 homes that we sold from that one model center. And there's a belief in active adult that people want to take their time. You can't motivate them. You can't create urgency. Well, I wouldn't have made a living that way. I was one of 10 salespeople. So that would have been impossible if I believed that. So I had a client that said that when we went to time frame, they said they wanted to move in 5 years. 5 years. So inside I'm thinking, oh my goodness, 5 years. I was crushed. But I'd learned this from this excellent trainer. So I said, if I could show you that your buying power will never be stronger than it is right now, would you consider moving sooner? They said, sure. So then I was able to go back to my presentation, went out to the models. We narrowed it down to a one of a kind with this one plan everyone loved. I said, let's go look at the home sites. And I kept it going. We walked on a beautiful lake and golf course home site. The price was only in the mid twos. It wasn't $1 million or anything, but they still fell in love with something. I asked for the sale. They said, no, remember we said 5 years. Oh, I said, yeah, let's go back and recap, which we'll get into in a few minutes. I went back and recapped, asked for the sale again. Oh, I put together the benefits of buying now. Locking in the price, locking in the interest rate, all those kinds of things. And then just beginning that lifestyle now. Why put off till tomorrow what you could be enjoying today, making friends now and all that kind of stuff. They said they wanted to think about it. They came back on the Saturday. This was a Thursday. They came back on the Saturday and we bought the home with a slight delay. So it worked out very well. But I just couldn't afford to let them leave without at least suggesting a solution. Is that why your buying power will never be stronger, or the only thing that waiting will guarantee is erosion of your buying power, something along those lines, where and just to get them out to start thinking differently. So
and I think a lot of salespeople feel defeated when they hear that yes. Oh, I'm looking to buy a year or 2 years from now. So instead of trying to convert them and convince them that now is the time, a lot of salespeople will just give up at that point.
I remember
I don't want to waste my time.
It is it's a bad feeling. I remember thinking, oh my goodness, this is my one client, because I was in a situation where I was on a rotation, 1 of 10. They don't do that anymore, thank goodness. I think you might 1 of 3, but that was the old way of doing it back in the 1950s. Back in the 90s when I was there, and I was thinking, oh, I'm so depressed. Inside, I was immediately depressed, thinking, I waited all week for this and blah, blah. So thank goodness I scrambled in my brain and came up with some suggestion, the buying power. Would you consider moving sooner? And they said, yes. I said, great, at least we have a shot at this. And then I was able, and again, we all know that buying is emotion backed by logic. So if you get them to fall in love emotionally, you can back it up with the logic of why it's good for them. At least try. There's no guarantee it would work, but we need to try these things and make these suggestions. And then even if they hadn't bought, I was in a good mood. I was happy again because they were at least considering something. So we had a shot at doing something productive. So yeah. Well, good. The second biggest thing I think that we don't do, the one thing is going together. As you say, I think that so many times we let our presentation end there, and it's impossible to make this end, right? You've allowed it, and your movie has ended in the middle of the second act, not at the end of it hasn't got a proper ending. So then the last part of it is the recap. So we can certainly ask for the sale on our feet. So if they're impulsive, they might go ahead. So let's go ahead, let's put it together. Whatever your closing phrase is, I'm fine with, as long as it's a real closing statement backed up with 10 seconds of profound silence. So they know that you really were asking there for business. But a lot of people are not ready. Mainly why they're not ready is that there are too many moving parts. There's too many decisions to make, and it's too confusing, and they don't understand how it really all goes together. So what I learned to say was, I would ask for the sale because there are people that are impulsive like you and me. But then for the rest of the people, I would say, let's go back and recap. And I would drive them back to my model, or go with them back to my sales office rather. And instead of, so if I go back to my sales office for a recap, if I'm standing up, what is my body language saying?
That we're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm sort of hungry. I have lunch back there. Would you leave before the next client comes in, right? So my body language is dismissive. There's no way they could ever buy a home, or they'll really confide in me. So what I learned to do is say, let's go back and recap. When we walked in, I'd say, let's sit down and recap. And that physiological change of sitting people down, they might go to the restroom, we might get a cup of coffee or some waters or whatever. We would sit down. Now all of a sudden, I can go through a formal recap where I'm recapping, this is the community we like, here's the home we like the most, here's the outside, here's the floor plan. Let me write down your children's names and their bedrooms and stuff, and let's talk about some luxury choices perhaps that you were thinking about. Maybe you want the hardwood floor everywhere, not just in the wet areas or whatever. And so I'd get it. So all of a sudden, we could spend 15, 20 minutes, and now they really understand all the moving parts in the home buying process. Here's the home site, here's, blah, blah, blah. Here's your approximate total investment. And sometimes I would show people, here's your approximate monthly investment. I even have an app for that now. So if you're not comfortable with it, please email me, and you can try out the app, where it's got a great mortgage calculator. But I'd end up ending at that point. So just sitting down at the end, then they would start to confide in you, and they'd say, well, you know what, Roland, we really like it, but how do you get a mortgage? I don't know. Maybe my credit's not good, or I didn't really understand a bit about my choices and the design center and how you do that here or whatever. So I found that the biggest change in my process. So what I used to do was early on, I would only sit down and recap with the people that I thought were the serious buyers. Mm-hmm. And I actually watched this other salesperson that would sit down with everybody. I thought, that's genius. Why am I judging the people that I sit down with? Maybe I shouldn't be judging them, because what if they're different? Maybe they're more slow paced and relaxed and more mature. Unlike you and me, when I like something, it's obvious, oh, I love it, I'm giddy with enthusiasm. But most buyers are smarter than that, and they'll hide that from you. So then I thought, why not just sit down with everybody? And so my sales, I went from, I think out of 11 salespeople, I was 10th or 11th. When I started this recap, I went to number 1, and I maintained that for the whole time I was there, because now all of a sudden everybody got to learn how they really can own that home. And I would have, again, my goal would be maybe 10 or 15 minutes to spend on a recap. That was the amount of time I would budget. But if they became serious, then that could easily lead to the sale, in which case it could be 30 minutes to an hour.
So Roland, let me ask you this.
Yes.
So I think for a lot of salespeople, they struggle with that last part is, okay, so we,
transition to the
I showed
sale.
you the model.
Yes.
We looked at the home site, and now the recap. So we would love to get them back to the model home. We would love for them to sit down. What are some of the best ways to do this? And if the prospect is giving you a pushback on it, sure, what are some of the techniques that you can try to get somebody to come back with you?
I love it, Anya. So if you leave things out that can only be dealt with back at the office. So, in an open house, you go to a realtor's open house, bless their hearts. I got to say, bless their hearts. But if you go to a realtor open house, they say, welcome, here's my flyer, here's a brochure, whatever it is. You don't need them anymore. They just eliminate themselves for the process. So if you don't do that, now I believe in carrying your own little closes kit. I always had something under my arm that, that would have my home sites that were available, and a little information on base prices maybe, mm-hmm, but the rest of it was back at my desk. So you have to go back. And then when you go back, with the exception that they're out of time, if they really have to leave, meaning that you have to pick up your kids from the babysitter or something, then I wouldn't be rude, of course, but most people don't have that scenario. So when I go back, it's good. Let's sit down and recap. And I would make it just that, and it was a body language thing. Let's go. And I would be sort of pointing nicely to my desk space, wherever that might be. And I literally did this thousands of times. I remember our receptionist would literally lip sync what I was going to say. I said it so many times. It was like, welcome back. Here's the restroom. Would you like a cup of coffee before we sit down and recap? It just was assumptive. There was really no doubt that's what was going to happen. And so if you leave stuff back there, if you leave a reason for recapping, which is great. So during the process, if you have 4 or 5 alternate choice questions, such as we include granite countertops with luxury choice of quartz, which would you prefer? They go, maybe quartz. Great. We go back. I'll make a note of it. If you set up during your model demo, everything links together, right? So if you set up in your model demo, then we'll go back and recap that. So if there are choices, I like to say choices equals commitments equals closing. So you give them a choice, such as countertop, cabinets, flooring, brick or stone or something, and then they give you an answer, and then you take it to the closing table. They say, when we go back to my office, I'll make a note of it, or I'll price it out for you, whatever your process would be. So in their mind, you've already planted that seed that there's going to be this recap. It's not a big surprise. And even at the very beginning, you can talk about, this is what we're going to do. We're going to look at the model. We're going to look at the home sites. We'll come back and recap. So it's clearly stated that's what's going to happen. And if they don't want to, they can easily let you know, hey, we need to stop at this time, and they'll share that with you.
Yeah, so I think it's really important to set the expectations. And then Roland, let me ask you this. So I think the time frame that most people are willing to spend with us in a model home, I feel that has drastically changed over the years.
Okay. Changed in which way? In which direction? Less? Or?
Yes, I think so. So I think in the past, people were willing more so And maybe it's because there wasn't as much information online. There wasn't as much information readily available to them before they came into the model. So when they come into the model, that was really their first exposure to the builder, to what's available. So it's kind of like they're learning it fresh. So they could spend more time. Now people are coming in, they will tell you, I want this model. These are the options I want. So I feel like the time has shrunk. So in the beginning of your presentation, before you start the demo, would you generally ask them how much time do they have to spend with you today?
It's a great thing. So that's a great question. I used to ask that. I used to teach to ask that every time. And then I went back out. So I was teaching for 10 years. Yeah, we should say about how much time do you have to look at homes. Then I went back as a selling sales manager for this luxury home builder for 3 years recently. And I found I didn't ask it every time. I would ask it when I felt like they were in a hurry, they looked like they were agitated. I sort of used it as a way. So if they were getting antsy and maybe I was taking too long, I'd say, by the way, about how much time do you have? Whatever they said, I'd say, great. In that time, I'll make sure that we see the models. First, is it okay, I just give you a brief overview about the community, et cetera. So I would gauge it that way. And it was about how much time do you have. But I don't ask it every time, frankly. I just only want to teach what authentically I do. But absolutely, if they seem like they're in a hurry, then we definitely want to respect that. I also love what you said, that we're sort of meeting them in the middle now. There's a good song, I think, Meet Me in the Middle. But we're meeting them in the middle as opposed to the beginning. And in the olden days, back in the 90s, literally when I was selling, it was definitely the beginning. They had a little bit of information and an ad or something, and then you were providing that. So now let's meet them in the middle. And that really is a strength of your discovery questions. So a question that I advocate that in our discovery teaching was, how did you hear about us? And what was it that you liked? So if I said, how did you hear about us? And you said Zillow, I said, great, what was it on Zillow? And you tell me the plan, you tell me what you like, then I'm going to go quicker. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of stuff that you don't need to hear. Now, I want to confirm other facts, of course, but absolutely, let's be nimble, let's be mentally flexible here and meet them where they want to be met. Let's not give them a sort of didactic monologue that's boring and I was trained to do it this way, I do it this way every time. No, know your process, then tear it up, throw it away and have a conversation with people, chat with them, relax with them. But we know, both Anna and I know, that I have to ask when they're moving, what time frame, what value range. I'm not going to miss it, but I'm not going to make it seem like an interview either. Does that make sense? I probably got overexcited about that thing, but yeah, I love it. So how much time they have is important, engaging that. I found that some people will say it's 10, 20 minutes, it ends up being an hour, but quite literally, if they have to pick up children or pets from the groomers or something or whatever, then you of course want to respect that. Which brings me to my last little point, because I think I'm staying on time with our podcast here, is that if you're not going to get the sale, and that's fine, one of the things that there are two benefits of asking. One is you get the sale, or the other thing is you get to see their butts, which is my favorite thing. I like big butts. So you don't normally get to see their buying objections until you do what? Until you ask for something. Because they'll go, oh, I love it, everything's great, I'll see you later. But if you say, you like the home, you like the home site, these luxury features are working well, you love the community, let's go ahead, shall we? And they go, oh, no, but. So when you ask for the business, and it seems organic that way, because you're sitting down, you're recapping, it's not out of left field, they can say, yeah, okay, great, we'll go ahead. Or they can say, but, and you can manage an objection, and maybe 2 or 3 different objections. I want to look around, price is too high, whatever it's going to be, I want to think about it, manage it, try again. If you're not going to get the sale, that's absolutely fine. No one's going to get upset. But what's the very next reflex that we should do while we're still sitting down? Get the appointment. So when is it to get the appointment? An appointment with a purpose, or purpose, not just to get back together for the sake of it. But Anya, we sort of ran out of time, so we didn't get to really do a detailed price out. So when you come back, I'd love to meet you at the design center, or meet you over here, and we can look at some. Would that be okay? Or we didn't get to see that home that had the kitchen that was different than the one we described. So when we get back together, I'd love to show you and your husband. So it's always with a purpose, but it's much more effective to get the appointment while they're still in front of you, not after they've left.
Love it. Okay.
And that's all I have to say about that.
And okay, so try to get an appointment. Now let me ask you, would you try to ask for the sale every time? Because I know some people say ask for the sale every time, but I know personally, sometimes it just didn't feel right because maybe we weren't quite on the same page yet.
Right.
So what is your,
Yes. Well, I'm one of those guys, and look, I don't mind people making fun of me for this, and it's fine. But again, it comes from my own experience. Is that yes, I would say every time, with the absence of a couple of things. So some of the reasons that I wasn't asking for the sale early on in my career was I was uncomfortable or I was judging too much, and so I was thinking, well, they weren't really giving me the feedback of a real buyer, so I'm not going to make it uncomfortable and ask for the sale. So what I'm advocating is as follows: if you have a process that has a beginning, a middle, and the end. So the middle is you've narrowed it down to that one of a kind. The ending is you're sitting down, recapping patiently and helpfully. You know, my idea, I want to help them make a decision. Zig Ziglar's quote about closing is, you're helping people make decisions that are good for them. So as long as I firmly believe that, then I want to help them as much as I can by asking for the sale. Let them give me the objection of whatever their object. I'm not going to give them that. But the only exception would be if they didn't like anything. If they didn't like me, like your shirts are way too shiny, I hate your accent, your hair looks strange to me, and I didn't even like your homes, or whatever they're going to say, then no, of course not. So if they don't like anything, then I'm not going to be goofy about it. Or they just got through telling me, look, I really do need to go off and talk to somebody, my banker or my family, about the money, I'll be back, or whatever, then fine. But in the absence of that, if you have a process that you're in control of, that has a beginning, middle, and end, you're narrowing it down, then yes, don't some of the filters we have would be, it feels uncomfortable for me because of their personality or their culture maybe, or something that happened earlier. So I would suggest you get over it and try it, and let them give you an objection that you can attempt to manage. Is that what do
love
you
it.
think? Does that make
Yep,
sense? Yeah.
that is kind of along the same lines that I was thinking, that I wouldn't ask for the sale if it was one of those situations
Yes.
where I didn't think that we were on the same page because they
Right.
really didn't like something or something was off.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would ask for the sale.
Perfect. I found that the more you're in control of your process, the more proactive you are, the less reactive you have to be. So maybe when I first started out, I thought, wow, those were hard clients, and oh, they were tough and had all these objections. Later on, when I got good training and I implemented it, I had such a good process that I was proactively covering the things that they were thinking about. My whole recap close was designed to be proactive and cover the things I would be thinking about, like how much is this home? Where does it go? What's included, for goodness sake? What are my choices? You know, we watch the Gaineses on HGTV every Saturday. I watch the Gaineses. I want white quartz countertops and white cabinets. I want just what they have. But the salesperson did introduce that. So make sure your process does give them the choices that are on their level and that kind of stuff. So that's really all it's designed to do, is to be really helpful and make sure they get the information they need. And then you've earned the right to ask for the sale, and let them come back with an objection, which you can manage a few times, and then at least move to the appointment if you can't manage it.
Love it. Well,
Yep.
Thank you, Roland. I appreciate it. And you guys, again, if you want to come back and follow along through the steps, Roland has outlined them for you, and I'll make it available on the website. So if you head on over to AnyaChrysanthemn.com/066, you'll be able to download a copy of that. And then you can literally have it at your desk and maybe see, okay, did I do this? Did I do that? Did I do that? So that you can really check off of it, right? To make sure that you're following in the steps. So, Roland, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show today. I really, really appreciate your time. And then for anybody going to seminars, conventions, where can we see you next time? Where are you speaking? What are you doing?
Well, you're very kind. Yeah. So it's Roland Nairnsey. You got that. Roland, it's New Home Sales Plus now. You can find me at New Home Sales Plus. So that's easy. Please email or just go to the website. I have lots of free downloads, this information, but lots of this information rather. I will be, of course, at the Builder Show in Las Vegas this coming year. So you can see me there. And I would love to chat. You know, just please pop me an email or call me, and let's see how I can help in any way possible. I'm really trying to build my YouTube following. I don't know how to do it. I need your help, Anya. So
I'm only 66, so I'm trying to. So
66 subscribers. Yeah, I'm less than that. I have five free videos that are information, fun and more that I'm adding all the time. So please go to YouTube as well, and you can subscribe. Hit that bell so you get notified. I've got a new video coming up this month on listening skills. What did I say? Something about listening. So there we go. But mainly the stuff on my YouTube videos are soft selling skills and fun stuff like adapting and words and voice these. But they're 5-minute videos, so you can watch them. So please, so in any way we can help improve your life and the lives of those around you, then it's been a good day for all of us. So thank you very much, Anya. You're doing a great job. I'm so honored to be part of this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. And like I said, I'll link to everything on the website, and you guys definitely check Roland out.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Take care. All right.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.